welcome to Dave Cooper Live, where each week we bring you the people, the products, and the processes, helping us all to build it better. This week's Product Spotlight brings awareness to the GrayTech Group, one of the largest Autodesk partners in the world, and they promise to transform their clients into experts of BIM and industrialized construction. Today, please welcome Brandon Ionata from the Struxoft Solutions, part of the GrayTech Group. Struxoft Solutions offers comprehensive Autodesk Revit-based BIM framing with both the off-the-shelf and custom solutions, including MWF, Onyx, and FrameLab. Can these software solutions for wood-based and light gauge steel construction help you automate, design, and frame faster? What's happening in the construction tech world? What are the biggest problems offsite builders face, and how is the team at Struxoft helping to solve those challenges? Before we get into all that, though, we got to thank all of our sponsors and all of the people that help us deliver all of these amazing people to the show to help us all build it better. So here's a quick shout out. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory, optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. Reach out to Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. Howick Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for offsite modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, howickltd.com. All right, again, a big thank you to Forward Solutions Group and to Howick. They are amazing. Both companies are amazing to helping us build it better and grow the offsite construction industry. Well, no stranger to the Howick team today is Brandon Ionata, so let's bring Brandon on. Brandon, how you doing?
Great, Dave. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get into all this really cool tech and all the fun stuff that you guys are doing, we want to know everything about you, Brandon, from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we'll have your mother on, and I bet that could get quite embarrassing. Anywho, you only got about 2 minutes to do it. The floor is yours.
Great. I'll spare you the gory details, but basically, I come from a family of contractors and general contractors, so I guess you could say I was born into the business. I think I still can make the claim that I am the only person at Struxoft that actually used to swing a hammer for a living. Many moons ago, a younger version of myself was a carpenter's apprentice. But I got into sales, specifically software sales, and I guess the rest is history. I stumbled into Struxoft Solutions roughly 12 years ago. A company of only 12 people at that time, mostly developers, and it was a great fit. I saw, I knew firsthand the kind of problems that builders were facing out in the field, and I saw what the Struxoft team was doing and where it was going, and I thought it was really a fantastic solution.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Did I cut you off?
No, that's it. Taking a breath.
Taking a breath. I love it. Well, it is a fantastic solution. Before we get into Struxoft, let's talk about who the GrayTech Group is. Can you give us a little bit of background on the overall company, and then we'll narrow down into all these different applications that you guys offer?
Absolutely. So GrayTech, as you mentioned, is one of the largest Autodesk partners in the world. We are about 700 employees strong globally. And our primary focus, even though we do a lot of business selling Autodesk products, is we are a software editor. So GrayTech, for those of you in the structural steel world, you'll know Advanced Steel and Advanced Design, both products originally developed by GrayTech.
So when you say you're a software editor, what does that mean exactly?
I mean, our primary goal, our primary business is to develop solutions for the industry, for the construction industry and the AEC industry as a whole.
Got it. Struxoff, let's talk about it. Where does Struxoff fit in? Who is Struxoff for? What do they offer? What does it do? Come on, Brandon, we want to know everything.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. So Struxoft has been around since about 2007. Started our journey developing Revit, a Revit application back then, which at that time there was no real API in Revit. You call Autodesk to get some information about the Revit API, and they it was all very hush hush. So long story short, a little bit of perseverance. By 2008, we had our first commercial application or Revit plugin, which was MWF. It was actually the very first, from my knowledge, commercialized Revit application on the market. And what it does, or what it did and what it still does, is automate the creation of light gauge steel and wood framing throughout a Revit model, right? So we're leveraging the intelligence of BIM, and we are adding some functionality to that to allow us to really enhance the level of detail in these models to a degree in which we can build from.
So when you say enhance to the level that you can build from, this is always interesting to me because there's different levels to everything. But I mean, we're talking to where it can get very customized to where you can make shapes that are just unimaginable to a regular machine that's maybe just cutting wood.
Absolutely. I mean, we can. The sky's the limit when it comes to programming. So, I come to programming late in life. I'm not a programmer, but I get involved to a point where I see what is capable, and it's just absolutely mind. So, really, the sky is the limit. But when I'm talking about enhancing the level of detail, it's really about you know taking the information that is existing in that Revit model and basically leveraging it so that we can really have a true to life wall panel, for instance.
Sure.
We can go so far as to have objects in that wall panel like screws or nails and glue lines and routing lines for machinery. So it's really, really, really critical, obviously, for a builder to have all of this, especially if they're putting it out to a machine. And yeah, that's what we do.
So how accessible are these programs, like in terms of cost, complexity? For example, can a building professional, easily adopt, programs like Onyx, and all of a sudden, they're an industrialized construction expert? Or walk us through what the stages are. How easy is this? How hard is it?
Sure. I mean, cost-wise, you're looking at a couple $1,000s per license. It's pretty affordable in this day and age. If we look at solutions that offered similar types of outputs 10 years ago, you were talking about solutions that were $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 per license, right? So that's one thing that Autodesk and Revit has really done for us, is lowered the cost overall of software licenses per seat. So that's a good thing. But if we look at what it takes to implement this into a company and get on board, it really depends. If we're looking at it strictly from a software side of things, MWF, which is the software I'll talk about mostly in this, is really it's built on top of Revit, so it's utilizing a lot of the Revit features, and it has a very similar workflow and feel, right? So someone that's proficient in Revit can pick this up in a couple of days, maybe 15, 20 hours of training, and they can be proficient automating the creation of your panelized wall systems, floor systems, truss systems, etc.
So there's the automation side, like the actual designing side within the Revit, platform, or whatever platform we're using here.
Yep.
How does that information translate to the equipment that needs to actually build it?
It's a great question. Revit itself is essentially a database. Okay, so behind Revit is all manner of data, and we can grab that data, and we can either manipulate it to be what we want it to be. So when I talk about that, we can say that linear foot of studs, for instance, or linear foot of lumber, will translate into roughly an estimate for how much glue we need or how many nails we need, et cetera, to go into a panel. So we're able to extrapolate the data and basically through processors that we've developed, convert that data into what a machine needs to whether it be, roll your panel like a Howick roll former, for instance, or assemble a panel similar to some of the larger scale wood multifunction bridges put out by Weinman and Randek and these companies.
So the machines that are rolling these out, like how detailed is it, right? There's designing it, then there's rolling it out. But how do you know, like when you think about the process, and I'm really trying to help people understand how you guys have taken something very complex and simplified it, right? So you
Yep.
set the information in the machine, then the machine has all this data and it starts spitting out, cold form steel or wood, whatever we're spitting out. How do we know how to put it together at that point? Like, how do we know what piece goes where? Because there's millions of pieces in a building.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if we look at a process like the Howick roll former, okay, for instance, this is it's quite interesting because there's a real nice kind of symbiosis between the software and the machine, and I'll explain what that means. Essentially, if we look at Revit, we have a wall container, right? And what MWF is doing inside of Revit is using that wall container to pull out additional data and to put in framing. Now, the framing information is all based on user inputs. So the user is going to say, I'm going to use this type of material. This is my stud shape. This is how many inches I want between each stud. So we'll say, we want them 16-inch on center. This is how we're framing around openings, etc. The software then is going to see that in the model, and it's going to obviously recognize changes, so we can assign different templates or different user data to different conditions present in a building, and then basically automatically put in each one of those members. But the precision at which we do it is, and I'm Canadian, so I'm going to say it, down to the millimeter, right? And we can, so that's how precise it gets. Now, when I talk about the symbiosis between the software and the machine, which is really interesting, is the fact that we can send a simplified output, which is literally a TXT file or a CSV file, out to Howick, for instance, and they'll know from the data that we're putting out how to label each one of those members based on the panel, based on its position, and where to punch it, and all the rest. So everything kind of clicks together. And most machines work in the same premise, right? We create a panel. That panel has an identification. Each member within those panels has an identification. And we're able to create a shop drawing, which then has each one of those labels dimensioned, etc. So not only do we have a machine file, but we have a visual file that's very readable to the people on the factory floor, and we're able to put this all together in a very seamless way.
So here I'm a business, right? I'm out there and I'm thinking, all right, I want to add automation, offsite construction to what I'm doing and what I'm working on. Can a business, by using your software, can a business, really change? I mean, these are pretty sophisticated tools. They're, can existing builders really adopt them, or is it a really hard process to bring all of this together? Not only just the technology, right? Because there's the technology of designing, but then there's the team that has to understand how it all comes together in the field or at the factory.
Yeah. It's a great question, and one that I get into a lot.
I bet.
We see builders all the time that they have a target of something complex. They want to deliver volumetric units, so a modular builder, right? So we have a lot of customers that are doing things traditionally right now, and they say we want to move towards volumetric, and they start building the process to move towards volumetric, or they say we want to deliver a closed wall panel system, so they start building their process to deliver a closed wall panel system. And that's where a lot of businesses fail in taking on the offsite construction way, if you will, because they're biting off more than they can chew immediately. The importance here is to refine the process before we start thinking about what the end, what the deliverable is going to be, right? So the successful businesses, the way that they are implementing this is in a very stepped and staged approach, right? First, let's deliver components to the job site. Those components can be something as simple as a door or window header that is pre-manufactured in a factory setting and cut to length. They can install that while doing everything, manually the way they have been for years. Then move on to something like an open wall panel system,
Right.
which, this way, if there is an error, you're not throwing away, thousands of dollars worth of material. Um, it's an easy fix, right? But you think, if you have a problem downstream, where you're trying to deliver a closed wall panel system and something is, a quarter of an inch off, that quarter of an inch it grows by the end you get to the end of your run, and you have major problems. So the companies that are doing this successfully are taking a very stepped approach to it. They look at, what is that, and I'll use a software term, but MVP, the minimal viable product for us to be
Right.
effective on the job site, right? So that minimum viable product, whether it be a wall panel, an open wall panel, or something like a component, an opening component, or a door header component, that is a good first step. And once you've nailed that, you move on to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And the same approach needs to be taken with your process, right? There are so many businesses that say, we want to be offsite builders. And the first thing they do is they rush out and they buy a machine, right? And they don't know, really what the limitations are of the machine, if there are limitations, or how they're going to fill that machine with data so that it can efficiently produce parts, panels, right? So really, you have to look at it from the project inception. How are we designing this project from the start so that my machine will get this information cleanly and seamlessly at the end of the line?
Yeah, and it sounds to me, listening to what you're saying, is that when somebody works with a company such as yours, Struxoff, GrayTech, that they're also getting the experience, the knowledge, and the team to help them implement this in a way that's been proven. The strategy's already been done; it's been proven, and there's a little bit of hand holding that I guess takes with this. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've had the opportunity over the years to get into a couple accounts that, more than a couple, I should say, but into quite a few accounts that people look to us for some suggestions, and what type of machinery is best, and what type of process should we be looking at, what should be our first goals. And these are always the very smooth sailing types of clients, and businesses, ultimately, because open to suggestion, and ultimately willing to listen to some experience so that we can get them successful down the line.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'm gonna show some pictures that you put up there
Yeah.
for us here. Let me add these two. So talk us through. We got about 4 or 5 slides here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, this looks like a crazy looking jail, but what it really is it's a fully panelized structure, right? So every single one of those tiny little lines in that structure, it represents a single piece of the puzzle. And just for scope of what it is that the software does, imagine going through this and drawing in every single stud like it is here,
Mhm.
every single vertical, every single horizontal, and the time it might take to do this accurately, right? So the software is able to do this in a time frame that is manageable, right? If we're talking about just panel generation, we're talking about a couple hundred wall panels in 10 to 15 minutes time,
Wow.
just in generation. So it can be very fast. Now, clearly, when you're working on a project like that, I wouldn't expect, a project to be done like this in an hour. It
Yeah.
takes, days, weeks, because there's a coordination and things that need to be done with other trades. But, if you look here, the level of coordination that can be done with structural MEP and so on is just, way higher than what you would normally see in a typical project.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, right? Because it looks like the MEPs are also designed into this.
Mhm.
That's what you mean about the other trades, right? Your software does the structure, but do you import the MEPs and put that all in based on what a partner gives to you on how this is going to be done?
Yeah, so any customer that's using MWF, essentially what they can do is we're leveraging the technology of Revit.
Yeah.
So if we can import it into Revit, we can see it in MWF, we can frame around it, or we can create openings if there's in wall penetrations such as hot and cold water pipes and so on,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that there's already holes drilled through the verticals so that we can pass those pipes and not have to do it on site. So all of that can be done. This is the augmentation of the level of detail I was speaking to
Right here.
earlier.
Right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. It is super detailed. My guess is we can zoom in down to the last screw and bolt on that, right?
Essentially, yeah, you have to figure that every single one of the connections of these members are
Yep.
precise enough that we can manufacture them in machine. This particular project is manufactured through a Howick machine, funny enough. So, that
Hey,
means that
Howard.
we Howick, yeah, we have to essentially make sure that all of the information is there so that the Howick machine knows where to cut the stud, where to punch the hole for the screw and dimple, where to swage and where to
Right.
create lip cuts so everything fits nicely inside of each other.
Yeah. Listen, and we've done a lot of coverage on Howick over the last couple of years, and we got our Steel Horizon event that I know you guys are going to be at up in Boston as well. And Jen will share some of those details on screen here in a bit, but their machines are quite incredible on what they can do and what they can print. You think it's just rolling something out, but it's doing a whole lot more than just rolling. It's the dimpling. I mean, it's pretty impressive. It's the cutting of the angles if you got to bend it.
That's exactly it. It's literally turning a wall panel
Yeah,
into a Lego system that clips together. It's really 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 incredible stuff.
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, let's. What am I doing here? I'm all over the place. Let's use this one here. Just another view of what of a different building.
Another view of a different building, but what's interesting about this one is that this is all cloud-based. So this is Onyx, and it's our manufacturing solution. So
Yeah,
about I'd say 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we realized that a lot of the fine detail. So here we go again talking about routing lines for cutting sheathing or glue lines and screws and so on.
right.
A lot of the fine detail inside of a Revit model isn't necessary, right? So we saw a need to kind of extract the manufacturing process a little bit from Revit,
Yep.
so that we can run it in a lighter and more accessible platform. So we created our cloud solution called Onyx, and essentially what this is at its nucleus is a converter, right? So we're taking a Revit model, we're bringing it up to the cloud, we're able to see the entire model like it is here, and we output the CNC file. More importantly, though, what we're doing is we're really organizing the way we're manufacturing
Hmm.
these wall panels, right? So what do I mean by organizing? Well, obviously, in this view, what I'm able to do is I'm able to go in here and sequence our roll order. So roll order in the business is, what panel goes after the other, right? So it's our sequence of manufacturing. So I'm going to sequence our roll order here. Okay. And from the roll order, I can then go even further and I can sequence, what materials are used first, what members are put out first. Because if I have a stud that is a certain gauge, I don't want to have to be switching my coil over and over to create a wall panel. I want to put all of one gauge material out through my machine first, then go through the next gauge. So it's really about optimizing this process, right? So we're able to do all of this in Onyx. The other really cool feature in Onyx is that we're able to go into each and every wall panel. We're able to verify each and every single one of the operations that are going into, and we're talking about, really small, minute operations,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're able to edit the operations. Now, everybody always asks me, okay, well, we're editing something in the panel. Is that going to go back to Revit? Well, I don't need to. If I change the location of a dimple, for instance, on a stud, I don't need to send it back in Revit because it doesn't exist in Revit, right?
Right.
It exists for the purpose of the machine and the machine only. So we're able to do all of that from Onyx.
Wow. Very cool.
This is these are
Wood,
my
right?
favorite. This is wood. This is wood. A pretty simple panel, to be honest with you. I probably could have found something a little bit more complex with some MEP and stuff in there, but either way, I think it demonstrates, the necessity of software like ours in the industry. Because if we're creating something offsite, we need shop drawings or panel tickets like this, right? If you're going to build something in a factory, I need something that is a visual aid to show the guys that are putting this together, which member goes where, which piece of wood goes where,
Mhm.
and what this panel is supposed to look like when it's done. I also need, to be able to relate my labels that are coming off the machine to the actual physical labels that are on each and every single piece of the puzzle. So a shop drawing like this is super important. And if I go back 10 years ago, people were drawing each and every single one of these by hand.
Right,
So
right.
that's a lot of time consumed. Here we're able to create these automatically through the software. So literally, you input your settings on how you want this to look, what
Mhm.
is the visual appearance, and we're able to spit this out for every panel in your project.
So, and again, so your software is going to be working like with Randeck machines, right? Or something of that
Exactly.
scale. The quality of the lumber that one has to use when you're doing precision software, that's got to be something you have to take into consideration when designing. I mean, the machines aren't sitting there flipping to find a crown and seeing, how inaccurate, the stud is and the 5 from the 20 go in that pile, right? How do you guys manage that, or is there a specific wood style that you need or wood grade that you need?
You definitely need a high grade wood. If
Yeah,
I look at some of our customers, especially on things like, that are running long distances lengths,
right,
like top and bottom plates. A lot of them are using, very high grade finger jointed plates
yeah,
that are, arrow straight. And there is an additional cost to this, don't get me wrong. But when we look at the benefits, is reduce waste and reduce labor on these projects. They're
yeah,
saving money by purchasing this material. And then you're also looking at the final deliverable, right?
yeah.
That the product quality. So when things are fitting together real nice and you don't have this, wonky lumber that is doing an S curve through your wall, your final deliverable is much higher grade than your competitors. So it's really a benefit.
Okay. So I mean, this is a soapbox for me, Brandon, because you're absolutely right. When you think so, and I love to say this, right? And that's why I brought up the word crowd. How many hours every day on a big job are the framers sitting there twisting lumber to see how straight it is? Like, these are the quantifiable things that people don't quantify or take into account what labor and time lost on a job site. Just that one little thing alone
Yep,
pays for the value difference of each stud almost, right? And I think,
absolutely.
and as you said, when you have a job, like, come on, what do we have change orders for anymore? We can be precise, we can be accurate. Let's stop using garbage lumber. That's what I always say.
Mhm.
It's all garbage, but you have to be able to look at all the different aspects to quantify why the value is there, like you just said. And being in the industry for so long and a lot in wood, like, I get it now. I look at this stuff and I see people that are using softwares like yours, and it makes a world of difference. All right, I'm done with my soapbox. Sorry.
No worries, but I fully agree. I think
Yeah.
it's a excellent point. I mean, just think about how much material you're throwing away because it
Right.
doesn't pass your quality standard, or you're cutting out knotted lumber, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
If you up the standards for your design, up the standards for your manufacturing, and up the standards of your products, ultimately down the line, you're going to save money and have a more competitive product on site.
And know what your cost is.
Oh, absolutely, right? This
Yeah.
is this is the number one thing that companies. So I mean, listen, I've never been a big fan of accountants. I don't know too many people that are, but this is the thing that all company accountants want to see, is they want to see accountability for their materials and their
Yeah.
and their time savings. And here we are with software that's able to basically spit this out, to the moment. We can create a live link that literally gives them all the data that they want whenever they want.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go on one more little tangent here, and then we'll get back to the other two slides. But I did a project with a company called Mod Logic and Access Construction on Long Island, a hospital. It was a pediatric 7,000 square foot addition.
Mhm.
And it was so precise and accurate. Once the grade beams and all that were in, they delivered their units. They were seeing patients, and this is a full scale hospital. I mean, like the doors were pneumatic doors, the lockout. This was in the height of COVID. 12 weeks.
Yeah.
12 weeks to see patients from the time they started putting product on the plates of that foundation. And I think that's how that's kind of when the aha moment really hit me. I'm like, wow. And that included all the MEPs and everything in it. So, all right, super cool. And I don't know
Yeah.
if they used your software, but I guarantee they used something as good or the same as what you guys have for sure.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
necessity.
I love it. I love it. All right, back to the Brandon show. My fault.
No
All right.
worries.
Let's see what we got here. There's a wow.
Yeah, there's a good example of a multi-story wood structure, and I have we have images of much bigger ones, but they're hard to keep on one screen. So,
Right.
but you'll see, when we talk about framing isn't just the sticks of lumber. We're also talking about the sheathing components. We can obviously design closed panel systems. So framing at that point includes hardware. So, in structures like this, we obviously have all manner of clips, and pull downs, and anchors, and so on. But also MEP components if we're delivering closed wall systems. So, framing is more than just the wood or the steel verticals.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the fact that you can also incorporate the MEPs into the wood structure,
Yeah.
that's always been an issue in the past times. But with technology, it's becoming easier to do that.
Absolutely, and this has been the big strength of MWF. Really, is the fact that we're built on top of Revit,
Right.
right? We can take all of the data from other trades and bring it into the model, and we're able to then leverage the data and manipulate the framing so
Right.
that everything works together. If we look at competitor solutions, they don't have that ability. They're dealing with IFCs, which are questionable at best. And here we're able all to play in the same sandbox and work on the same project at the same time. It's really a huge plus
Yeah.
for us.
Like I said, I don't want to sound like a fanboy here, and this is definitely not, paid promotional stuff by any stretch with Brandon and Struxoff. This stuff is real, and that's one of the benefits that we've had at Dave Cooper Live here is just we get to meet all of you and we get to meet the people in the field and the manufacturers that are doing this. And it just, I struggle with, how do we get other people to really understand the financial gains that one makes having the accuracy that these systems give. And yes, you got to pay a little bit more for the product, but you got to think about the time saved and the labor saved, insurance saved, all the things that you save that happens in the field on a job site and less disruption to the community. I'm telling you, like these things are no brainers now. The only problem I see is we need more factories to produce more throughout the United States. That's the biggest problem.
Absolutely, I don't see that as a problem. I see that as an opportunity, though. I think
Yeah, there
that
you go.
it's where things need to go.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's hop through these last questions here because I think these are going to answer a lot of questions. At least not from my mouth, but from your mouth for people to hear it. What types of challenges today are offsite builders facing? From a software solution.
Yeah, so I mean, if I look at a lot of it, I think that a lot of clients that we speak to have been pushed into one way, one decision or another, without properly kind of doing their homework.
Yeah.
And I'm talking strictly on the software side of things. I think that if you're looking today to pick up a piece of software for your business, not only do you have to make sure that it works for your business, but you have to make sure that it works for every single contractor that you're going to be dealing with, right? Because if they cannot give you the data that you
Yeah.
need, then you're going to be doing a lot of rework. And this is the number one reason why people come to us is because they're sick of doing rework from, they're getting projects, whether it be in Revit or not, and they're using some other solution that is based on its own platform, and they just cannot use the source data, or can't use it
Right.
efficiently, right? So if you're spending more time, building your projects digitally than you are building it in the factory or on site, your process isn't working. So you have to look at that, right? Who are the major players in my process, and how are we all going to work together quickly and efficiently?
Yeah, no, for sure. And let's talk a little bit about, like how is Struxoff actually addressing all those things that you just mentioned, and we'll get into some of the problems that they have, builders, because I think some of the things you're going to say, people are going to go, yeah, I'm dealing with that. And that's kind of the idea of why to re-ask these questions almost in a different format. How does Struxoff address, those issues you just mentioned?
Sure. So, I mean, we kind of take a different approach than a lot of companies, because we know that the problems that each company faces are always a little bit different, right? And not every solution is going to fit one company.
Yeah.
So when we look at a company, we look at, okay, what is the best way to cover these problems? How are we going to fix them, right? So the solution itself is very solution based, and we employ an army of developers to help us through this, right? So we, one recent case we were presented with, a customer wanted to start to, double their output. So it wasn't just a question of, getting software in their hands. It was a question of, okay, how are we going to automate this process to make sure that they're able to work faster? So we got in there with developers and we said, we need this feature to go faster. We need to be able to output this panel information in half the time, and we were able to do it. Right. Sometimes even it's not even just about automation. Sometimes about handling exceptions in a construction process. We're very keenly aware of what problems exist out there, and
Yeah.
customers that come to us with issues. We provide them cost effective solutions that they can then kind of leverage into perpetuity if they wish. Software solution, you don't need to water it to keep it going.
Yeah. So, I mean, how are the clients, that you're currently, working with, using your software within their manufacturing process, kind of avoiding these mistakes?
Um, I think that they're looking at the problem as a whole, and they're working with us to come up with the best solutions that fit for their business. So we're creating very customized solution for some clients.
Mhm.
Some clients are, they have a great process already, and they call us in to basically give them that software and that training, and they hit the ground running immediately. It's really amazing what some companies are able to do. So every solution is, or every customer is different, every company is different, and I think that that's a big error on a lot of software companies nowadays, to think that they can shoehorn every single company into one process. It isn't true.
So who's using the product? Maybe that's a better way to answer that. And I
Okay.
actually see a comment I'm going to put up there as well from
Yeah.
Greg Ugaldi. He says, and this will all tie together. So I'm curious on who's using the product, and can you name some of the clients that use your product? But Greg's asking the same question. What does your ideal customer look like? Size, sophistication, etc.
Sure. I mean, customers, our customers are not just modular builders or just panelized builders. We have a number of customers that are general contractors, that are starting to leverage this information to pass off to their contractors, who are actually building these panels. And it isn't just people in the offsite industry that are using the software. A lot of companies are using this for coordination, clash detection, because there's a massive cost savings to find right there. But if I look at our most advanced customers, our most advanced customers are using, robotic arms to assemble wall panels, or using multi-million dollar, nailing bridges and multifunction bridges like Weinman machines and Randick machines to build wall panels like they're in an assembly plant, a Ford assembly plant kind of thing. It's really incredible stuff. So those are some of the customer types that we deal with day in, day out. But there are a lot of builders, and sometimes the most successful ones are the small scale guys that do everything in house,
Right.
that have one Howick machine out in a big shed, and they just pump out that one product over and over again. There's this wave of productization that's coming over the industry now. We're starting to move past just industrialized construction, but we're creating products. So for some companies, they're creating products as a wall panel or products as a volumetric unit. And that means that they're already going to have the design in place. All they have to say is, okay, I want design A, B, and F to fit together, put it out, right? So that's how we're going to start moving faster. As far as ideal client types and which ones are best, I don't think we have one ideal client type. I think we subside on challenges as a company. So any customer that's willing to challenge us is ideal.
All right, so I got to do a record scratch here because so something that really caught my attention. You said that general contractors are starting to want to use this product, which means they're mandating to the manufacturers or the person that has the machines that they want to use this. I mean, to me, that is huge, especially the general contractor, because sometimes they're more advanced in their thinking. And some of the factories that are kind of been stuck in their way, maybe, and this is how we've always done it, or they're really struggling with labor. So they need to find ways to optimize more in the field. But I find that super, super interesting that you said that.
Yeah, well, I can guarantee you that nearly every major general contractor in the United States right now is either thinking about offsite construction, investigating offsite construction, or already doing it. Right. One of those three, guaranteed, every single major general contractor, and I know that because I've spoken to most of them. So it's really an interesting thing. It's a little bit under the covers in some cases, but it's there. It's happening. Right. There is this massive shift in the industry. Companies want to remain competitive, right? So how are we going to remain competitive in the next 10, 15, 20 years? We have labor shortages happening, materials becoming more expensive, timelines to erect buildings are shortening.
Yeah.
How do we achieve, how do we overcome all of these challenges? In my mind, moving towards manufacturing is the only way.
So over the last 10 years, over the last decade, let's say, right? How much has this changed, right? You've been in the industry long enough. Like, how big and how fast is this change happening? Maybe is more the question, or has it been steady for, just steady as it goes?
No, I could say that, 10 years ago, 10, maybe 15% of our customer base were manufacturers. The majority of our customer base at that point were people that were leveraging BIM, right? So we were doing collaboration, coordination, that sort of thing. Now, more than 60% of customers that approach us are looking at solutions for manufacturing. So it's taking off like a shot, right? We know that this part of the industry is building and is building exponentially. So it's where everything's going.
RJ says, greetings to both of you. It's a delight to be here with you today. I'm tuning in from the beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, and I want to emphasize the tremendous value I'm finding in this live discussion. Well, thank you, RJ. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Go over to YouTube after you're done watching us, of course, or you can go there now and watch it. We're live there as well. Thank you also, Greg Ugaldi, for tuning in. Greg is the he's the past chair of the National Association of Home Builders. That's the guy that updates President of the United States a couple times a year. I love saying that. I don't have very many friends that get to update the president, so I got to say it, right? How cool is that? Good to see you, Greg. Hope all is well. We also have George Ryman tuning in from Phoenix, Arizona, a dry 81 degrees here today. George, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. So as we move through this conversation, we just talked about the growth. has there been a shift between wood framing versus light gauge steel framing? Is one segment growing faster than the other? What's your thoughts there? I mean, you're on both sides of the fence, and you get to see it. Give us the real deal, man.
I am on both sides of the fence, and I honestly I cannot say one way or another, where things are going.
Yeah.
Obviously, Light Gauge owns commercial, Woods owns residential. And it's also a very geographic question, right? You look at certain geographies globally, they'll favor LGS for a number of reasons: humidity, pests, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm from Canada, so obviously wood is abundant and good for good insulation properties and so on. So obviously we see more of it here. I can't say one way or another where it's going. Obviously, every time one kind of the price of one fluctuates, people start looking at the other, and vice versa. But I think both are here to stay. No doubt in my mind about that. I think especially as we start to waste less material,
Right.
we'll start to see a clear path on which medium is better, but it's tough to say right now.
Yeah, it is tough to say. And, obviously the fluctuating prices of wood and steel, I mean, they kind of go back and forth. It's almost like, and I think Greg said this last time we talked to him, it's almost like they're in cahoots. One goes up, the other one comes down, vice versa. So it is definitely not the easiest thing to follow along with, for sure. Love it. Love it. Hey, we got Peter D. Maria. What happened, Peter? How are you, my friend? Peter's coming on our show May 15th. And he's going to talk about the role of the architect. Is it dead? Peter thinks architects need to wake up. It's time for them to play a bigger role in solving the housing crisis. So super excited for that. We're going to be talking about reinventing the architect. What do you think about that? Have you ever reinvented an architect, Brandon? I have not.
No, I've never attempted.
Never attempted? Perfect. So, Brandon, last question. Then we're going to talk about some upcoming events that we have, and an event that you're going to be at as well. But where do you see us headed? What type of tech can we expect in the future?
So huge push for cloud. It's I think we're going to get off our desktops in the next 10 years, which is a major opportunity as a software company, but as for construction companies as well, because it's going to mean better collaboration with our teams, better collaboration with the contractors that we deal with, and so on, as well as the ability to be almost anywhere and design. So that's where I see this. I see software going. That's the major push. And within that, that means that we're going to be able to see, better solutions as far as, analysis and engineering. This has always been kind of like the Holy Grail of this industry, is being able to find a solution that does it all. I think as we move towards cloud software and cloud computing, especially, we're going to get towards that. We're going to be able to see a single solution, or a platform which allows us to pull in multiple solutions, give us that Holy Grail that we've been searching for.
The Holy Grail, said right here. Everybody's been looking for the Holy Grails for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So perfect. All right. Well, listen, Brandon, we got some great things coming up. Why don't we talk about this year? You'll be at BCMC, right? The annual event for the SBCA happening in Indianapolis. What do you hope to get out of that show?
I mean, a lot of conversations like this, honestly, it kind of really energizes me and the company as a whole. It's great to be on that machine side of things as well, where we're able to see things, actually, all of this programming, these ones and zeros go through the machine and turn into something real, right? So that's a major plus. So being able to see customers and potential clients that are putting this kind of stuff to use is always super cool.
It really is. We have an industry where we can actually design something, build something, and then sit back and go, wow, we actually got it done.
That's it.
That's what's super cool. All right. And also, we'll be coming up. We got Steel Horizons coming up in June. We'll be in Boston together, and we'll be exploring the future of modern construction. So if you're not planning on being there, it's an invite only. And just letting you know, big players are going to be there, and some of the big names in this industry that are actually trying to make change happen. So we will be exploring the future of modern construction. So join us in Steel Horizons in Boston, Massachusetts. And here's the website if you guys want to learn more about what it is. I am a keynote in there, and so are so many other people. My good friend Amy Marks is going to be there, and she's going to be talking. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super pumped about that show coming up for sure. And then, like I said before, Monday we have the 15th. Peter DeMaria is coming on. So make sure you tune in for that. Not only is he wicked smart, he's been in the offsite industry for a long time. He's done some super cool container projects through the years in California. And he's just a really nice guy. So super pumped to have him on. And I know he's excited as well. So we can't do any of this without all of you out there. So, please, if you would go to our YouTube channel, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us stay relevant. It helps us bring you all of these amazing people, just like we're seeing over here with this guy, Brandon, who's going to teach us how to find the golden ticket to advance forward. And Brandon, this has been amazing, man. I hope we covered everything. Did we leave anything out that you want to make sure people know?
I don't think so. I think it was a great conversation, Dave. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, we appreciate you being here as well. All right, everybody, listen, that is a wrap. Make sure you join us this Friday, 1 p.m., BS Friday with my good friend Mark Willie. And then we'll be back Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week as well. And stay tuned for updates on our European travel coming up. That's right. We're in Europe. That's all of July and part of August, traveling to Germany, Austria, Italy, Switzerland. I had to get it all right there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to bring you all kinds of innovation happening in Europe. Brandon, don't go anywhere. I'll come back to you after this outro. And hey, again, make sure you go say thank you to our sponsors. And here's a couple more sponsors to thank as well. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.